For John came to you in the way of righteousness, and you did not believe him, and even after you saw it, you did not change your minds and believe him. So today we're going to talk about changing our minds, and particularly admitting when we're wrong, which we all know it's very hard for us to do. Some years ago, I was visiting some family in New Jersey, and I was really surprised how much they argue. So they're very extroverted family. They just keep on cutting each other off, and they shout, and they just want to be right. And when I was watching them, it's kind of entertaining, but I realized, oh, my family used to be like that. We always used to argue. We're always trying to be right. But ever since we started following Jesus, we became more interested in truth. So now when my two older brothers and I, when we have intense discussions, we actually still stay calm. And then we say things like, you're right. Actually, I'm wrong about that. Let me take that back. What I just said, let me modify it. Or given what you've just said, I changed my opinion. I retract it. So we're no longer worried about being right or wrong. So that's our goal for today. Our spiritual goal, that we no longer be worried about being right or wrong. We're just worried about truth. We're just going to go wherever the truth leads us. So the gospel begins. Jesus said to the chief priests and the elders of the people, "What do you think? A man had 2 sons. He went to the first and said, 'Son, go and work in the vineyard today.' He answered, 'I will not.' But later, he changed his mind and went. The father went to the second and said the same, and he answered, 'I am going, sir.' But he did not go. Which of the 2 did the will of his father?" Okay, so the first son, he's wrong. He disobeys his father, very disrespectful. But the important part is he changes his mind. And so same thing, God wants to know, God understands, look, we don't get things right the first time all the time. He knows we have to improve. He just wants to know, are you the kind of person who's willing to change your mind as soon as you know the truth? Are you willing to admit you've been wrong? That's what God really wants to know from each of us. Whereas the second son, he says the right thing, he gives the right answer, he knows the truth, still won't do it. I want to give you 2 quick examples of how I've changed in this way. So first example I'll give you is a case where I've been wrong. And second one will be a big change for me in my life. So some of you might remember 2 years ago, 2021, on March 28th, I gave a homily quoting the Canadian bishops about which COVID vaccine we should prefer. Now, what I did during that homily is I only quoted half of them. Now, why did I do that? Because I was afraid that a lot of people would hear the part of the teaching that the bishops gave, they'd only agree with the part of it. And then the part that they don't like, they're just going to ignore it. So I thought, you know what? I'll just give you half of their teaching. I want you to wrestle with it. I want you to deal with the hard part. Now, here's the problem. Here's my mistake. I never followed up and gave you the second part, and that was wrong. And the other wrong part is I wasn't clear what was the goal of the homily. So I just want to admit my mistake. I've been looking for an opportunity to say sorry. Okay. Second big change in my life has to do with my tone of homilies on hot button issues. So whenever I've addressed really important moral issues like abortion or anything sexuality, transgenderism, kind of in the past what I would do is I'd take out my intellectual machine gun and just go, I would just shoot down bad ideas because I don't like bad ideas. So if you remember, on May 14th, I gave a homily on they doing all this transgender surgery on children, cutting off healthy body parts. And so I just attacked it in a philosophical way. This is wrong, this makes no sense, etc. But then I realized a lot of people aren't motivated to do something about it just by philosophy alone. I realized people tend to need more positive arguments, positive reasons. So when I gave another homily on transgenderism on June 25th, I gave 8 positive examples because I realized I think that might be better for people. Now you might be saying, so what? Hey, that's a big change for me. You know how hard that is to change the way you approach something, to change your style? So I think of these words of Pope Benedict. He said, "Indeed, we cannot say, I have the truth, but the truth has us." That's great. You should never say, oh, I have the truth, I'm right, you're wrong. It's not about that. What he's trying to get us to think is, no, the truth has us. Jesus said to them, truly I tell you, the tax collectors and the prostitutes are going into the kingdom of God ahead of you. For John came to you in the way of righteousness, and you did not believe him, but the tax collectors and the prostitutes believed him. So the tax collectors obviously are like extortionists. Back then, that was their problem. Prostitutes obviously are doing something wrong. But they changed their heart when they heard the preaching of St. John the Baptist. So you remember the preaching of St. John the Baptist was really hard. He said to the people, you're going to go to hell unless you change your ways. And this is great. So the tax collectors and the prostitutes, they believed, they changed their minds. St. John Henry Newman, he said this, to live is to change, and to be perfect is to have changed often. Right? He doesn't mean just change every day for the sake of being different. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about, as soon as I know something that is true, I start adapting myself. And you keep on adapting every day just to root yourself closer to Jesus. So St. John Henry Newman, he went through all these big changes in his life. He's a perfect example of this. So when he was 15, he gave his life to Jesus. He had a conversion. And then when he got to university, he moved from evangelicalism to a more intellectual form of Christianity. And then he started studying the church fathers. And finally, when he was 44, he became Catholic. That's a lot of change, but that's great. So basically what we all want to do is we want to get to the stage where we can all say, if this is the evidence, if this is the facts, I change my mind. Or if this is what Jesus teaches, I'm going to follow it. So I just gave you two examples, one where I've been wrong, one where I've made a big change in my life. So I just want to go over two areas. I want to propose these two areas where I think as a parish family, we can all improve. So last year, I mentioned how a lot of us didn't go to the masses around Christmas. And so I just want to remind everyone, for us Catholics, this is a grave moral obligation to go to Mass every Sunday and the days on Christmas. So let's start. This coming Christmas, this is hopefully what we're all going to do. We're going to go to Mass on Sunday, December 24th, which happens to be the fourth Sunday of Advent. And then the next day, we're going to go to Christmas to honor Jesus' birth. And then the next Sunday, we're going to go to Sunday Mass again because it's the Feast of the Holy Family. And then the day after, Monday, January 1st, it's the Solemnity of Mary's motherhood. Now you notice the attentive observers will see that we've changed the Mass time so that I can sleep in. I mean, we can sleep in. We're trying to make it a bit easier, but this is really what we want to aim for, everyone, for us Catholics. And so to miss one of these Masses would be a mortal sin. If we miss it through our own fault, it's a mortal sin. So let's not do that. Okay, second thing I think we can work on as a parish family. We've mentioned before that if we want to have a baptism here or confirmation or get married here, you want to commit to this parish. Why is that? Because if you spiritually hop around to different churches, you actually don't reach spiritual maturity. It's actually not good for you. You really hit spiritual maturity once you root yourself in a community. So if you want to have a baptism here or whatever, get married, you have to go here every Sunday. And you have to be able to tell me or Annie Ma, who's in charge of baptism, she works in the office, you have to be able to say you go every Sunday. Now here's the thing. If I ask you, hey, do you go to Mass every Sunday? Just tell the truth. Just be honest. You know what the best answer we get is? The one that I love the most is the one that says this. You know what, Father? I haven't been coming or they say, Annie, no, I haven't been coming every Sunday, but from now on I'm going to. That's great. That's a great answer. And here's the thing. As soon as we challenge you, you can actually do it. So there is a family here, and we've had lots of great families who met the challenge. So we said, you can come here every week. And at first we heard the usual excuses, but then as soon as they were challenged, they kept coming every Sunday. They can do it. So not only is it to show me that you can do it, it's to show yourself. You really can do it if you follow God's teaching. And once the sacrament is over, keep on coming. Because the sad part is, after most First Communions and most confessions, a lot of people don't come back the next weekend. So let's not do that. Here's the thing. If we've made that mistake in the past, just forget about it, go to confession, give it to God, but then from now on, let's do better. For First Communion and confirmation, most families struggle to come back the next weekend. Here's our chance to improve, everyone. We can do a lot better. So don't feel excessively guilty about the past. Now's our chance to start again. And finally, the same rules apply. If you want me to sign a form that says you can be a godparent, like godmother, godfather, if for me to sign it honestly, you got to come every weekend. So just to finish off, if you still find it really hard to admit you're wrong, I'm going to give you a secret now that if you follow this secret, you'll never have to admit you're wrong. Okay? So if you hate saying sorry, just do this. All you have to do is follow all of Jesus' teachings, agree with everything he said. You'll never have to admit you're wrong. It's true. If you follow everything Jesus teaches, all your spiritual and moral opinions will be perfect. And if you follow all of his teachings, you'll never have to say you're wrong because you're acting perfectly. Okay. But we're human. We make mistakes. And it's not about being right or wrong. And it's not even about having the truth, right? It's about the truth having us.